Hello and welcome to the Ideas Exchange by Clu'd. Each month, the Ideas Exchange will bring together people responsible for shaping the future in their industries to share their stories and what the future holds for them. Today, we're lucky to have two tech experts from software and technical enablement with us because you guessed it, we're focusing on technology. Shorten is in technical enablement from Talent, the data health experts, and Cayelan Mendoza is a game and software developer for ViewCity and Clu'd. Thanks for joining us, both of you. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me.
Amazing. So to get us started, I would love to know a bit about your journey into tech. Jen, please, after you.
Sure. So I have been in the industry since around 1998. So really when it was the internet, was quite nascent and new. And I had a fairly untraditional journey in that I graduated from university in 1996 with a life sciences degree. I studied cognitive behavioral animal behavior and things like that. And I thought I was going to go to graduate school and be a professor and a research scientist. And I wound up, I had a job at a biotech company as a project manager. And, so I'd gotten this really great set of project management skills. And when I realized that that an academic career wasn't really going to be a great fit for me, and I started looking around for things to do, I wound up in what was then the new media department at a company called John Wiley & Sons as an assistant project manager. And so I got into tech because my project management skills really transferred into the tech industry. And that's where I started. And I've been in tech ever since.
Those transferable skills are something that we deeply value. And Cayelan, how about you? What was your journey into technology like?
So my journey into technology is, I guess, the way I always saw technology is that it's an enablement for me to be able to do something. And so it wasn't, I'm interested in the tech for tech's sake. It's just, how can I use tech to do what I want to do? So in high school, I actually used to use Microsoft PowerPoint to create like these slideshow games where something pops up, and when you click it, it will take you to another slide where, the action has happened. So it kind of made it look like it was interactive, but that was quite limiting. And so around came the internet. I was Googling, like, how can I program computer games? I had this sort of this burning desire to sort of recreate one of my favorite childhood games. And so I just kind of taught myself. I just got online, I joined the forums. A lot of people were like, learn to code first. I'm like, but I'm trying. And so I just stuck with it. I guess, the thing that really drove me was the fact that I had a goal in mind. I think if I were to just study coding for the sake of it, I'm not sure how well I would have done. The real journey for me was, I know what I want to do, and tech is how I'm going to get there.
Absolutely. Now, that's quite an unusual route into technology, Cayelan, because most people would study a computer science or data-centric degree in order to start their career. So how did you get into tech without studying a technology-based subject?
So I guess I just reached a point where I said, okay, I'm doing pretty good at this. I enjoy this. I need to get serious about it. And so there came a point in my journey where I'm like, I'm going to actually do some modules online. I hopped on sites like W3 Schools to go through the tutorials and just to get my head around it in a more structured way. And also, I guess, by bringing tech into all of the things I was doing in my jobs, which weren't necessarily tech-centric, I kind of ended up creating experience in jobs that weren't about tech using what I'd coded. So for example, when I was working at Apple, I was able to sort of create training modules and like little apps that we were using just to help with the team. Nothing to do with my job. I just really wanted to do it. And by doing that and building up this sort of portfolio of projects, that actually helped me to be able to get a job that used that specifically. So what I'm doing at View City, yes, I'm there to take care of technical support and account management, but I'm actually developing software that helps us with our jobs every day, so that way, you know, it's yes, I have my goals, but actually I'm trying to be smarter about it. And this is where I think tech comes in. So yeah, it's just building up that portfolio, bringing it in where you can, because that experience is what got me where I am.
Build up the portfolio and gain experience in developing those skills in every way that you can, until you feel ready to take the leap into your kind of entry role. Fascinating. Now, Jen, you are a woman in technology. Some might say at your level a rare breed. What's it been like navigating a career in technology?
Yeah.
Come from an underrepresented community?
Well, it's interesting because I've been around for so long. You know, when I first started out, because of the fact that I didn't come from a programming background, right? Because I didn't have a computer science degree, because I wasn't a programmer, because I was a woman, because I was a young woman. You know, the early part of my career, I really had to wear a persona, or I felt I had to wear a really hard, you know, tough persona, because it was all about fighting for recognition and respect. As I've progressed in my career and I've moved from the non-technical side of IT to the very technical side, very technical roles, you know, I have found that establishing credibility, and if you're in a situation where you just have to constantly fight to establish credibility, and you're in an environment where you're not being treated very well as somebody who there aren't a lot of other people like you in the room, then it's not worth it to change yourself. You need to be able to show up to your work as your authentic self. And really, that's a good sign that this isn't a good environment and you need to go. And so instead of now in the industry, instead of being in a place where I am always gearing up for a fight and whatnot, I make sure, you know, I make sure now that the environment that I'm in is a great environment, and that I create that same kind of environment for folks who are around me. And I think that's really important. That's a really important thing, is, you know, you shouldn't have to fight. You shouldn't have to you shouldn't be in a position where you're feeling marginalized or feeling terrible about yourself. And there are more places now in the industry, I think, where you won't experience that. And it's always a good idea to look for the right environment for you, and for, you know, to really make sure that you can come to work as your authentic self and how you feel. And so I think that, you know, the industry it's still an industry. It's still a corporate industry. It is still populated, the vast majority, by people who don't look like me, and that don't necessarily look like Cayelan. But, you know, there are great places in the industry, and don't stay in a place that makes you have to fight, because there are plenty of jobs out there, you know, that won't make you do that. That's my best advice, right? Is it's not up to you. It's not up to you as somebody who is from an underrepresented minority to have to be so excellent that you prove all these people wrong, right? It's not your responsibility to fix corporate culture if corporate culture isn't good. You know, make sure that you look after yourself in your career. I think that's my advice that I would give to a younger me.
It's actually the advice that I give as well, Jen. The number one thing I say that I'm still paying off the debt of now is not recognizing my value soon enough in my career, and putting up with bad managers who wanted to basically take a ride at my expense. And it was only when I realized that I had that power, I had that control, that organizations were lucky to have my talent as opposed to me feeling fortunate for them employing. And that power shift has really transformed my own trajectory as well. So
absolutely
fantastic.
So you're there to be a developer or an architect or a marketeer, or you're not there to be the representative of your community. It's not your responsibility. And if the job is making that, for you, it's the job's fault, right? And that's not your fault. And you shouldn't, all my career, I thought I had to always be the best of the best in the room. I had to be the smartest, the most experienced, the most knowledgeable, the sharpest, the fastest wit, and that held me back because I was angry all the time, right? And don't fall into that trap is my advice.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the psychological impact of role model fatigue. Not everyone is, and not everyone is an extrovert. It can be very, very draining on your ability to do your job. Ultimately why you are there. Cayelan, from your side of things, how was it for you as someone from an underrepresented community finding your pathway in tech?
I guess I don't know if I could characterize it as like a plane landing. Like it was kind of going into the jungle. There wasn't really a runway. So I think that, if I were to be talking to my younger self about, what the challenges of that journey were and what I would have to say to someone like me, I was always thinking about what I couldn't do as opposed to what I could do. And so when it comes to like, yes, I don't have the same background, or I don't have the same skills, or I'm not from the same environment, or I don't even gel with these people in the same way that everyone else seems to. The focus should never have been on the things that I can't do. And actually the focus always should have been what I can bring. And as I've gotten older and as I've navigated this, I've just come to realize that it doesn't matter if I don't look the same. It doesn't matter if I haven't done the same thing, because I know what my value is and what I can bring. And so I actually reached this fun point where I just decided to flip the pancake, as I like to say, on my CV. And I destroyed it as a CV and turned it into like a magazine with a picture of me in New York in some ridiculous pose. And it read like an article interviewing Cayelan, explaining what I'm all about and talking about the projects I've done. Because I thought, you know what? If they don't get that, I don't want to work for them. And so the whole journey for me was just taking back that power and speaking from a place of this is what I can do, as opposed to being insecure about the things that I can't do.
How did you take all of these tools and help it shape the career that you wanted to follow in technology?
I think that actually those tools helped me to shape the career that I wanted, because I wasn't always sure. I think that I never had this idea when I was younger of this is the job that I want. But I've always had this sense of momentum and trajectory. And it's like, as long as I'm learning and as long as what I'm doing is interesting, it's going to pull me in the direction that I want. So I've always just operated on that basis. And that's how I've ended up where I am. If you were to ask me 5 years ago what I'd be doing now, I don't know if I'd be able to say that I would be creating a tech platform. And so part of it is actually just that curiosity and that momentum and that desire to kind of learn something new.
Absolutely. Now, taking a bit of a step toward the future, Jen, what is the most exciting thing about the future of your sector for you?
So I think that for me, I've had an interesting journey. I've been a solution architect, I've been an analyst, I've been a project manager, and now my job is enablement. So what I do is I take all of that experience and I help to actually bring the future me's and the future Caelyns along at my organization. And the thing that is really exciting for me is that the industry tech is not just about the developers. It's not just about the people that write the code. And I think the industry is really recognizing more and more that there's a whole ecosystem of incredibly interesting roles that support the development of software and the sales of software and the innovation in software and whatnot. And I think what most successful software companies have realized is it's that diversity of experience and idea and skill set, different ways of thinking, different mental models. Those are the things that are really needed to drive innovation, not just a bunch of, superstar rock star developers, right? It's not enough to have just the best coders. You need the best kind of combination of minds. And so what I think is the industry is not just welcoming, but it's actually out there really actively looking and seeking for people with different kinds of experiences and who look at problems in slightly different ways. The concept of the lateral thinker, or somebody who's really going to, while everybody's looking this way, somebody else is going to look at it from this way or look at it from that way. And I think that's what's really exciting. And so we see this this change in the industry where it's just improving itself. It's realized, it's cottoned on to the fact that it can improve itself simply by expanding opportunity. And that to me is the real magic, and if I could say one really great piece of advice of people looking to get in the industry is it's not just developers. Code Camp is great. And if you're interested in writing code and being a programmer, that is awesome. Like, go do a course and whatnot. But if what you're really good at is analyzing a problem and breaking it down, if you're really good at communicating, helping people understand concepts and communicating things, you could be an analyst. There's so many different ways to get into the industry, and you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into one job, right? There's so many transferable skills for the industry. And that to me is really, really exciting.
It's just such an interesting point that you raised, because I think myself, I've spent my entirety of my career involved with technology and designing and creating and ideating products, but I still get confused and get into fights with Siri. I'm the least technical person in the entire world, but
you're in tech.
Exactly that, and it's my analytical skill that has been the foundation of my career. Cayelan, how about you? What is it that that excites you most about the future of technology?
If you ask me in a week's time, I might say something completely different, but something that's really resonating with me right now, it's kind of where technology overlaps with your humanity. And I guess, when we have this kind of more choice, more options, more availability kind of thrown at us every day. And I feel that we're reaching a place as a society where we don't want to have infinite choice, where, oh, look, there are 5,000 adapters I can choose on Amazon. Like, which one there comes a point where choice is actually too much and it's overwhelming. And so a direction that I'm quite excited about is, I guess, if I could create a word like boutiqueism, where people are starting to get things that are a lot more personalized for them. I feel like the day of the monolith is gone, like the one size fits all, the platform that does everything, the service that does everything. I just don't think that it works anymore. And I'm really excited to see how people are starting to think outside of the square of, how can I do what everyone else is doing and do it better? Instead, they're like, how can I do something totally different? That's where I'm seeing really exciting stuff.
Yeah. Honestly, the last few years of innovation has just been people slightly improving an existing process. And that's gotten kind of old and kind of stayed, right? But now you've got people really completely rethinking and integrating, where technology bleeds into other things, right? Real world problems and whatnot. And the solutions we're starting to see are so interesting. Yeah. So interesting. Things not happening in the big VCs, but really happening kind of at a grassroots level. And again, I think that's the democratization, right? We're all in tech now, right? Everybody so many of us are in tech, even though we don't consider ourselves in tech, but that expanded access and that expanded reach means you get to see really interesting new things, because you've got that very different mindset coming in and starting to work with technology, and just, thinking about it in ways that, that those of us who've been building software forever would never think about that stuff. It's very exciting, very exciting.
There is something also with Gen Z coming through as digital natives and understanding a world still going through digital transition, and just walking into situations and saying, well, hold on, why are you doing it like this? Why is this not connected? Why is that not an automated process? That happens for me in all of these other instances. And so the rate of innovation that Gen Z is directly responsible for, kind of coming up and completely disrupting our ways of thinking, it's palpable. It's incredible to see. I also think that there's, to your point around everyone being in technology, AI and machine learning are having such a significant role in centralizing subject expertise, so that a lot of traditional learning styles and methods around kind of information retention in people are becoming more and more redundant. And so a lot of the skills that were originally really important in technology are almost becoming self-sufficient, and it's the creative developers, it's the innovators, it's the analysts, it's the strategists that are really kind of coming to the fore as the ones that are going to be driving through the next evolution of technology. And for me, this is one of the most exciting things, is always seeing shifts in power and evolution, kind of the power and the value that we see in the different skills are intrinsic to the future of a profession.
I love that. I want to try to not get muddled in all of the things that's made me think of. But the thing around subject matter expertise and the role of AI, I really think that you're onto something there when it comes to, you don't need to memorize everything. And this is where technology will be able to support us. And actually it then becomes a bit clearer as to what our human skills are and what we need to, how can, I'm thinking of the example where I was saying that I'm talking about what I can do, not about what I can't do. I remember I was in a job interview. It was for a technical role supporting IT. And the guy asked me this question about what the difference between these two hard drive RAID configurations were. And I said, well, one of them does this, one of them does that. And he's like, so which one? I'm like, well, I don't know off the top of my head, but the point is, I know how to find out and I wouldn't guess. And so this isn't a question of me memorizing something. This is a question of me problem solving and knowing where to find it. And so where AI, I think, really comes into its own is when it's kind of like that assistant that's supporting us. It's not doing everything for us. It's there to make us do it better and quicker and easier.
Absolutely. I think the thing that you and I, if we probably looked and see, we had such different routes into our careers, we've had such different careers, but I think the one thing that you and I share that's really common is we're lifelong learners, right? We're curious and we're always really, and the skill that we do have is the ability to think, you know what, I'm going to go learn about this new thing. This is interesting, or I think this might be important. I'm going to go do some research and I'm going to learn the thing. And I would think that that's probably the single most important skill to have and to demonstrate in, because if you said that to me in an interview, I'd be super impressed. If you said to me, I'm not going to guess, I don't know, but I know where I can go get that information, I would have been like, yes, yes, exactly, right? Because this is that skill, that's a true skill set, and I think that's a really interesting point to folks is, that's the thing that employers are really, one of the things that employers are really looking for in the industry is that, that kind of hunger to be learning, to be growing, to be finding new things, that interest in new information and whatnot. And I think, absolutely. And that's a really great point.
There's just as a bit of a closing remark on that, we at Clu'd, we see about 60% of the jobs that go through our system are technology centered, not necessarily developers, but have a large part to play in technology led organizations. And we've just pulled data over the last year to understand which skills are in the highest demand across all of the people that engage with Clu'd. And in the top 10, there is not a single technical skill. So the top
that doesn't surprise me. This does not surprise me.
And Python, SQL, data analysis, they're all in the top 20. But the top 4, every single one of the top 4 is a relationship-centric skill.
This
and
does
then
not surprise me.
3 are communication-led, and the other 2 are the other 3. No, yeah, the other 3. There we go. Mathematics again. So in technology, but not good at maths. So the other 3 are entirely curiosity-based, problem-solving based. So people, how to work with people, how to communicate well with people, and solve problems are the highest in demand in technology sectors at the moment. It's
but I think that shows a maturity in the industry, that we didn't have certainly 20 something years ago when I started, right? That was not how it was, but it's comforting to see that that's where we've gotten to as an industry, because that bodes well for the future health of the industry, right? It's not going to cannibalize itself and fight after the same 4 dudes, right? It's gonna be open to a lot more people.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you both so much for joining us today. So much amazing advice and wisdom that you've shared. So really thank you for your time. If anyone listening today wants to discover if they have the foundation skills for a career in technology, you can jump on over to getaclu'd.io and take our skills-based career quiz to find out whether you're ready or whether you've got some gaps that you need to start focus on filling. And don't forget to join us on the first Thursday of every month for the Ideas Exchange by Clu'd.